Hello and welcome everyone. So excited to have you all with me here tonight for our Manager Class Show for the month of May. I would love it if you would go ahead and begin by letting me know what it is you currently teach. If you're a teacher, if you work in another position within education, please do let me know what role you serve in. Where are you located? I can let you know that I am specifically in the Texas area and I am currently serving as an assistant principal. So as you are weighing in below, I can't wait to learn about you. So really excited for tonight's conversation because we are talking all about how to increase student engagement in the classroom, specifically how to increase student engagement in the classroom the easy way. Because if you know anything about me, I don't do complicated, I do simple. Simple. Consistency is key in every single strategy that I teach to teachers that I coach them on. So I'm all about doing less to get more of an impact. So tonight we're going to talk about one mistake that you are specifically making when it comes to student engagement and how you're working to increase that in your classroom. We're also going to talk about 3 simple tips that I'm going to share with you on practical ways that you can increase student engagement in your classroom. You may already be on your summer break, and if so, fabulous. I'm very jealous. But you also may be like me, where you're wrapping up your last week with students now or in the very near future. Personally, we have 3 more days left with our students. Friday is the very last day with our students. And so this is a strategy, whether you have 3 days left like me, or you have a few more left, I'm going to share with you exactly what you can do to increase student engagement in your classroom the easy way. First, before we hop into that, I do want to know, where exactly did you originally find me from? So are you someone who found me from TikTok? Did you find me from Instagram? Did someone share with you? I recently have hopped on Twitter. Did you find me from Twitter? Would love to know where in the world you initially found me. So while you're typing that, I'm going to be looking at your responses and seeing exactly where you connected with me from. And while you're doing that, I do want to let you know a little bit of background information about myself. So hello, my name is Tierney. I am a classroom management and culture consultant of my own company, Tierney Richardson Consulting, LLC. In addition to that, by day, as I shared earlier, I serve as a proud assistant principal in the great state of Texas. I also love to share the fact that I was too a pandemic teacher. So for those of you who are currently in this seat of serving as a teacher, I taught in the pandemic just like you are teaching in the pandemic. So I know exactly what it is that you're experiencing. I'm not an administrator who's far removed or a consultant who comes into your school and tries to coach you on a PD who has never walked a day in your shoes teaching in the pandemic. No, I know exactly what that's like. In fact, just last year, I was teaching both virtual students and in-person students at the exact same time in one class period, attending to a screen, teaching live bodies in front of me together in one class period for the entire school year. Prior to that, the pandemic first hit, so I was teaching completely virtually. And so I know that during the times when we were, struggling through this pandemic in the very beginning, we didn't even know how to keep our students engaged over these devices. And that's still something that you're struggling with now, even though your students are in front of you. And so with that, what brought me to education in the first place is my passion for making sure that every single child, regardless of zip code, has the right to attain an excellent education. Everything that I do is centered around equity. Equity drives every decision that I make. Equity drove the decision that actually put me in the seat of becoming a teacher, because years ago, I was on a completely different pathway. I never saw myself working in education. I was geared towards working on the business side of the fashion industry, because I watched too many episodes of The Hills and Laguna Beach. And if you're a Gen Zer, you may not know what those shows are. But if you're a millennial, you know exactly what those shows are. And so with that, I had this dream of like, let me work on the business side of the fashion industry because my major was econ. So as I was working on the business side of the fashion industry, I landed my dream internship in New York City. And you know how they have expectations versus reality? Yeah, that wasn't matching up. So I quickly said, this is not for me. Thank you and good day. And I went myself back to my campus for my senior year of college, wondering what it is that I can pursue because I had my mind set on this one thing and it didn't pan out to be what I wanted it to be. So I ended up shifting gears. I took some elective classes in education, and that's when my eyes were open. You see, I grew up going to a private Christian school from K through 12. I had no idea what it was really like to be in the public school system until I took those elective classes. I took a comparative education class where I had to compare the United States public school system to that of this school system here in the Brazil one in Brazil. I had to compare the education system in Brazil to the one here in the United States. And that's when my eyes were open to the inequity that exists within our public education system and how kids who look just like me are receiving the short end of the stick simply because of their zip code. I was not okay with that. That was a problem, and I wanted to become a part of the solution. So that's what brought me to teaching. I have taught third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. So I have a mix of doing elementary, I have a mix of doing middle school. And now I proudly lead as an assistant principal at a K-12 campus. And so with that, I share all that with you today so you're caught up on my story and what brought me to this work. And I'm so excited to share with you tonight ways that you can increase student engagement in your classroom, because we know when our students are fully present and actively engaged, then we're able to give them a higher quality education. So again, my whole purpose here is to help beginner teachers who teach at Title I campuses specifically manage their class. I, as you have heard from me, have taught in the same grade levels that many of you are joining me teaching right now in your very own classroom. And so with that, that is my whole goal and purpose. How can I help you to manage your class so that at the end of the day, you have a strong foundation when it comes to your classroom culture so that you can set the foundation necessary for your students to achieve every ambitious goal that they set their mind to, and that we can work on closing this opportunity gap, not widening it. So with that, today I want to go ahead and jump right into one of the big mistakes that I notice teachers are making when it comes to increasing student engagement. So the one big mistake that I see teachers making when it comes to student engagement is you're overcomplicating student engagement. Now, I know that we scroll all the time on social media, specifically Instagram, and we see these elaborate ways that teachers are increasing student engagement. I have to laugh because I remember when just last year actually, and teachers were like, oh my gosh, the students aren't engaged, they're not participating, they're silent, they're mute, they won't talk. And teachers were literally putting stickers on their face just to keep their students engaged. And I applaud them for trying all the things they needed to try in order to do that. But it wasn't necessary to get the desired result. I saw people wearing elaborate hats and things like that and dressing up in costumes. And if you love doing that, then by all means, continue to do that. But as far as it being the way that you can go to increase student engagement, it's not, you don't have to do that. That's not the only way. I see teachers now that we're back in the classroom, you want to do these large, elaborate room transformations. And they changed the room into a NASCAR theme I saw on one teacher's classroom. Another teacher changed the room to being a construction zone. One teacher changed the room to being a full Starbucks cafe. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But what I have learned is a lot of you are just like me, because recently I posted a video on TikTok and I was like, I'm a full-blown ambivert. That means I have an introverted side and an extroverted side that's literally split halfway down the middle. And when that social battery hits blank, it's over. And so for me, thinking about the mental and physical capacity and energy needed to create a room transformation, that is not the pathway for me. I just knew it wasn't. And so I found ways to increase student engagement that was in alignment with the energy that I had and that was simple yet effective. So we do not have to overcomplicate student engagement. Just because we see other teachers doing things that are super elaborate doesn't mean that's the only pathway that you have to follow. There are other alternatives, and I'm going to share 3 with you today. So one great way, tip number 1, if you're still with me, I want you to type in the chat, I'm here. If you are tuning in on the behind the scenes on TikTok, I need you to tap that screen to give me some hearts, because the more you do that, the more this video gets pushed out and the more other teachers are helped by these tips. So don't be selfish, share. Thank you for the 1 heart. Let's keep pumping. I need more. Let's go, let's go, let's go. TikTok, I need y'all to get this to at least 1,000 likes. I know you can do it. YouTube, I'm here with y'all. The first way, okay? The first way that you can increase student engagement in your classroom, that is simple, not difficult, is this way. Provide choices to your students. Have you ever used a choice board or a learning menu? Have you ever used that in your classroom? I'm curious. Let me know. Those are simple ways that you can provide choices to your students that will increase their buy-in and motivation and overall engagement in the lesson that you are teaching them. So with me, I never reinvent the wheel. That was taught to me my very first year as a teacher. It's something that I hold tight and keep with me to this very day, and something that I pass down to the beginning teachers that I coach. We are not reinventing the wheel by any means. You can go online and find anything that you need to find where you can tweak, adjust, and make it your own. So I recommend providing choices. I specifically taught math in my classroom when I was a teacher. And so I would have these math choice boards that were aligned to the standards that I was teaching to students, that gave them choice, that would align to their different learning modalities. If they were a more kinesthetic learner, I had a way for them to show me mastery of the content or give them a way to increase their at-bats and practice in that way. If they were a more auditory learner, I gave them ways to, again, show their and demonstrate their mastery or increase their ability with having more at-bats and practicing that way. There's multiple ways. I'm personally a visual learner, and I guess that's why I love connecting with you and you through these video platforms, whether it be TikTok or live on YouTube. I love visual methods of learning. So for my students who were more visual, I gave them ways to, again, demonstrate mastery or get more at-bats in a way that was visual. So providing choices to students is a great way to get them to be more engaged and increase their active participation within your classroom. Okay? Just think about yourself as a teacher. I'm sure that you love to have choices in what you do versus being told this is the one way to do something. So that is one tip that I would give to you on how to increase student engagement. If you are ready for tip number 2, I want you to type a 2 in the chat. If you're ready for tip number 2, I want you to type a 2 in the chat. Any questions that you have, I suggest you hold tight and save those to the end. There will be a specific point at the end of this Manage Your Class show where I will give you space to ask those questions, and I will happily answer them for you. I see lots of 2s, so we're ready for the second tip. Tip number 2 is to leverage Edtech platforms. Do we know what I mean by EdTech? EdTech stands for Educational Technology. All of those platforms that your students use to connect to, from Clever with the single sign-in, or of those other platforms such as Flipgrid, Quizzes, Kahoot, Pear Deck, Nearpod, Kami. All of those platforms are EdTech platforms. And a lot of them say that they exist to help increase student engagement. And so, with that, you can leverage those platforms in so many different ways to increase student engagement, because all of them are essentially utilizing this specific thing, I will say, called gamification. So, as you know, a lot of the times I will use quizzes for an example, because you all know that I love quizzes. I single-handedly run Quizzes TikTok account. So, and I also post on their Instagram. So, you know that I love quizzes. So, we'll use quizzes as an example. With quizzes, I'm able to increase student engagement in a way that is super simple. There is a complete Discover library on quizzes that I can click on and search for any lesson that I want to find aligned to my content. There is no reinventing of the wheel. They are pre-made, full lessons, pre-made, where of course you can edit, but you're not starting from zero. But not just that, it's the fact that they have great tools in there that keep your students engaged from beginning of your lesson to the end. The fact that you can earn extra points when you get a lesson right. You can activate power-ups. You can use so many great tools, such as the spin the wheel. They have a live whiteboard feature. There are so many features within Quizzes, the platform, that allows you to easily increase student engagement. Students can respond in an open-ended response way. They can record their audio response. There's multiple ways that you can keep your students engaged from beginning to end. And they love when they hear the music playing in the background. They love when they're able to hear the little chime noise when they get the answer right. I cannot tell you a time that I've walked into a classroom or a time that I have personally used quizzes in my own classroom where I saw students were not engaged and excited to learn. So whether that be, again, any of those platforms that I named before, you can leverage those to increase student engagement in your lesson the simple, easy way. The lessons or the quizzes in there are pre-made. All you have to do is literally find one, drop the link, go. Simple. That's tip number 2. I feel that a lot of teachers feel that, oh, because I'm in person, those are just for virtual learning. No. I worked at a blended learning Title I campus for about 3 years as a 5th grade teacher. Because we were a blended learning Title I campus, we all had one-to-one technology devices in my specific grade level. So even before the pandemic hit, I was ready for the pandemic because I had been using all these platforms that people just discovered in the past year and a half, almost 2 years. I was using that on a regular basis. And my kids stayed engaged from beginning to end. This is what I want to say too. It's all about how can you work smarter, not harder. A lot of the times, your students will tell you what they're interested in. My students would even tell me, oh, I'd rather us use X, Y, and Z platform instead of X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, I'm here to make sure that you're engaged in learning, then I'm going to utilize that. So listen to your students as well. They can give you great feedback. If you're ready for the third tip, probably one of my favorite tip of the 3, of course, best for last, then go ahead and drop 3 in the chat if you're ready for the third tip. If you're ready for the third tip. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate your kind words. You said, thank you for the information. God bless you. Okay, so I see we're ready for tip 3. Let's go. So tip number 3. my favorite tip of them all. If you want your students to be engaged, you need to set it as an expectation. Hear me out. This is what I mean by that. I saw a video the other day of a man, I believe he was on TikTok, and he said, um, if you want to have good classroom management, then you need to keep your students engaged. I actually will beg to differ that, and I'm going to flip it. If you want your students to be engaged, you need to have good classroom management practices. Because I just shared my personal example about how I never did any of the tricks, the gimmicks. That's just not me. If that's you and it's working for you, keep on doing it. But as far as me, I just shared how I'm an ambivert. I really like to work smarter, not harder. I don't reinvent the wheel. I like things to be simple, straightforward, and easy to implement. So for me, I spent my time always, every single year, focusing on my classroom management. And as a result of me setting the expectation, holding my students to an expectation, being consistent with reinforcing that expectation, my students showed up to my class every day with a different energy. My students showed up ready to work and learn because they knew I would accept nothing less. So we really have to stop and think as teachers, have we set up the right expectation in our classroom that fosters a culture of engagement? Have you? Because if you've done that, then you will find you won't have to bend over backwards just to get your student to pay attention to you and not sleep in the middle of your lesson. So I truly believe that when you set the bar here and you're able to support students to reach the bar, they will achieve it. But it starts with your mindset, even believing that your students can get there. But again, what is the expectation that you have in your classroom? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So it's not so much play the games, the tricks, and the gimmicks, and you'll get them to act right. But it's more so set the expectation and the culture of learning within your classroom, and your students, as a result, will be naturally engaged. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I know that there's many teachers who have struggled making this transitional period from, you might have started your first year and you were fully virtual in this pandemic world. And then you hear the, oh, we're all new teachers this year slogan and mantra that everyone who was new hated to hear. And then you pivot and then you find yourself, okay, now I'm in this hybrid situation where I have some classes that I'm teaching virtual, some classes I'm teaching in person, or you're doing like me last year when I was teaching under the simultaneous model where we have two groups we're teaching at the same time. And now you've pivoted and it might be your third year in the profession and you have been dropped into this world of having to teach in-person students and nobody equipped you to have good classroom management. No one trained you on that. You received no support with that. You do not know where to start when it comes to classroom management. So you just Googled some things, crossed your fingers, and implemented it. When it didn't work, you tried something else. When it didn't work, you tried something else. When it didn't work, you tried something else. And none of them worked for you. And I understand that. That is where many teachers are when they come to me for classroom management coaching. They've tried everything. None of the teachers who I have coached have been teachers who don't care about the success of their students and don't want to be effective. In fact, every teacher who I have coached, who have found me online and said, I need your help because I know that you can support me because you've taught in the communities where I've taught and you've proven to be an expert in this field, all of them have said, I want to be better at classroom management because I know the impact that it's going to make on my students' success. So with that, when we're talking about classroom management and how to improve it, it's very simple because I don't do complicated. It comes down to what I like to call the foundation of your classroom management. the core pillars of your classroom management. The cake, if you have seen my most viral video on TikTok, it comes down to that. It's 90% of the work. And when I talk about classroom management, I do not mean the let's go buy an octopus online and flip it inside out and oh, my students will act right when they see it turns from pink to blue. I'm not talking about, I want you to go out and buy some Lucky Ducks from the dollar store and put numbers on the bottom of them. I'm not saying that you need to go on TPT and purchase the next gadget that you see out there because all of the Instagram girlies are posing with it in their photos that are perfectly curated. That's not what I'm saying you need to do. In fact, I would consider that to be fluff. I would consider that to be the icing. That's not what makes your classroom management effective at the end of the day. When I think back to all of the time that I've spent in the classroom from third grade to fourth grade to fifth grade to middle school, when I think about all of those groups of students that I've taught, I said, what did I really do that made me so effective in comparison to some other teachers? Oh, that's right. You kept it simple. You focus on the basics. Classroom management is not rocket science. You can read any research on it. There is nothing new under the sun. When it comes to classroom management, there are foundational elements you need. You need rules. You need rewards. Some people, oh, rewards. Yeah, I've heard the author that talks about rewards and all that. Okay, so call it reinforcement. You need reinforcement. Or you need a way that is going to encourage the desired behaviors that you want to see from your students. You need a plan for what are you going to do when students fail to meet those expectations that you set for your classroom. You need a way to say that, how am I holding myself to a commitment of equity for my students by making sure that I am using a fair approach in how I implement behavioral practices within my classroom, because it should never be meant to harm, but always to help. Never harm, always help. You need to think of a way of how can I connect authentically with my students, but not only them, but also with their families. You need to think of, okay, how am I going to create a plan for every procedure and routine that I need to have in my classroom so it runs like a smooth flowing, well-oiled machine? You need to think about how are you going to come with the right mindset where you can actually hold students to the expectations that are high, but also support them to actually get there. Because students aren't mind readers. They don't come ready-made. I don't care if you even taught them the year previously. And so I love the quote from Brene Brown, clear is kind. And I love to support teachers with making sure that they have full clarity when it comes to classroom management. And not only that, but confidence too. With your classroom management, you need to have a custom plan for your classroom that's aligned to who you uniquely are. If you've seen some of my recent TikToks, I've been talking about different classroom management styles and using celebrities to do that, specifically Emma Chamberlain, and then I also use Lizzo, that was requested. I have Harry Styles coming. And so if you look at those videos, those are different classroom management styles that teachers have. But you need to develop what is yours. What is your authentic classroom management style? What is a way that is in alignment with the classroom culture that you are trying to create? Because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Even though there are foundational elements to classroom management, it will play itself out differently in every single person's classroom because of who they are and how they bring their whole self to their work. I believe that within your classroom management plan, it should fully reflect the overall vision that you have for your students' success. When I'm helping teachers to build a classroom management plan, we create 5 essential classroom systems that they need to effectively manage their class. I don't teach anything else outside of that because that's all extra. I like to, again, keep things simple and focus on how can I give teachers exactly what they need to be successful so that they have the confidence and clarity necessary to have effective classroom management as a beginner teacher, even if they have no prior teaching experience at all. And so if you're listening to this right now and you serve grades pre-K through 8th grade, and you are a beginner teacher, that means you have from 0 to 5 years of teaching experience. You know that you're serving in a Title I school, either for the upcoming school year, even if you're someone who hasn't started teaching yet, maybe you might be a student teacher, right? If you're someone who is committed to equity, like me, and you resonated with the story that I shared, you're someone who believes in making sure that your classroom is a safe space for all of your learners, but a joyful space, a space where you are able to bring in structure, order, but also have a lot of fun and joy in the midst of all of that. And you want to be what I call from Zaretta Hammond, a warm demander. If you know that you're someone who reflects back on your classroom management over this past year and you're like, yikes, I can't take another year of that. And I realize that there's some changes that I need to make. If you're a solution oriented and open minded teacher, if you like to keep things simple and simple and simple, just like me, then I want to invite you to join me this summer. This summer, I always coach teachers inside of my Manager Class Academy. It is a 30-day exclusive classroom management summer academy for beginner teachers who teach K through 8 in Title I schools and want to build a strong classroom management foundation of classroom systems from day one. If that is you, I invite you to join me. I have 4 spots left inside of my Manager Class Academy, or maybe, no, I have 5 spots left. If you look here, these are the proud names of all the teachers who have accepted my invitation to join me inside of the Manager Class Academy. And I want to be able to coach you to have strong classroom management that is proactive instead of reactive, that doesn't have you doing all of the things and all of the tricks and gimmicks, but keeps it very streamlined and super simple. If you resonated with anything that I've shared tonight, trust me, there's way more than that, where that comes from. So I would welcome the opportunity to coach you this summer and for your name to go on this wall behind me on one of those remaining spots. I'm actually going to see if I can drop in the chat the link for you, because I also put it on my, what is that called? I put it on my bio. However, I'm going to get ready to answer questions because I know that you have questions for me. And as promised, I want to answer them for you. So any questions that you have that pertains to student engagement or classroom management as a whole, I want for you to answer them for me. I am going to be taking questions as you all are looking into the academy and determining if that is right for you. So what question do we have? Okay, so hi, you say that I'm interested, but my school is in Title I. So I actually had Chelsea, I believe Chelsea recently just joined the academy. Her name is on the wall right there. And she joined the academy, but when she submitted her application, she did share that she does not work in a Title I school. And so I pretty much just let her know that, hey, are you committed to equity? Are you someone who is, committed to making sure that you are operating in the core values that are going to be in alignment to the classroom culture that you're trying to create? Are you looking to build a foundation so that you're proactive instead of reactive and all those different things? And she was pretty much like, yeah. So I was like, okay, just so you know, I'm equity focused and everything that I do is in mind with the communities that I've served in. So low income communities, minority kids, And she was like, okay, well, that's no problem. I'm still interested. And so she ended up enrolling. So what I do say is, if you're interested in it, I would encourage you to go ahead and click on the link, which is in my bio for the application. And then you can enroll, as long as you know that, because I like to be clear. Clear is kind. I believe that being clear is kind. So I dropped the link in the chat too, but it's also in my bio. So would love for you to fill one of these seats that I have behind me, because once seats are filled, they're filled. I am somebody who likes to give my 110% to the teachers who I'm coaching. I am very hands-on within this program. It is very important to me that you are getting the results that you join the program for, and that you're reaching your goals. Anything that you want to know, I'm happy to answer that. Yes to all of that. I do have a lot of minority students and L students from low income. Yep. Okay. And I'm very big on equity, so definitely will look into it. Yes. Well, I hope that your application comes in before one of the other 5, and I would love to work with you. Title I, holla. I'll be checking it out. Awesome. Hope you can secure one of those 5 remaining spots. Can you give examples of student engagement for kindergarten? Ms. Holtzworth, where exactly did you come into the conversation? Because I don't want to repeat all the things that you might have heard. So can you please tell me what exactly you're interested in me repeating? And I'll be happy to answer that for you. I'm interested, but my school is in Title I. Okay, I answered that. I'm going to teach kindergarten for the first time next year, so I'm interested. Well, please join and submit your application, and we can get you locked in for one of those 5 spots. RuPaula says, I don't like gimmicks. Me either. Who has time for that? It's just a little bit too exhausting. And when you know at the end of the day, the gimmicks aren't a sustainable plan, it might give you temporary relief for like a little bit of time. But overall, for a sustainable approach to classroom management that is going to get you the desired results that you want to see, such as, respect in your classroom from students who are following directions the first time they're given, students who are not talking without permission and being extra chatty, students who are remaining seated and not causing any safety hazards in the classroom, students who embody all of those characteristics. You need more than gimmicks in order to make sure that that's an integral part of your classroom culture. I'm still studying, but I love learning new ways since I'm an IA. Instructional aid, that's awesome, Anna. So glad you could join us tonight. Hello, Kendall. Thanks for joining. Maya says Blooket is also a great one. I do like Blooket. I think Blooket can add more to their library. It's not as robust as some of the other platforms that I might have mentioned before that have this large database of pre-made resources that you can use to help foster a culture of engagement in your classroom. But Blooket is still good. Interested in the academy, but I have a conflict. Can I still sign up? Courtney, thank you for your interest. Could you please submit your application, and then I'll send you a text message to answer your specific questions. I've been really good at working around the schedule of the different teachers who have already enrolled here. And so definitely just want to make sure that we're able to find a way to make sure that you are successful within the academy if there's going to be key pieces you might miss. You were talking about classroom transformations. Yes, Ms. Holdsworth. So I believe that for my style, and I had done a video recently, I'm a full-blown ambivert. So that means that, I really do not have all the energy in the world. I'm not that full-blown extrovert where I'm on 10, 24/7, and then I'm not like zero energy either on the opposite end of the spectrum, but I'm kind of right there in the middle. And I definitely have an energy capacity level. And once that reaches 0, then it's like I go into my introverted mode where I kind of need my social recharge time. And so for me, when I think about all the different elements that go into a classroom transformation, unfortunately, that's not something that I would have been able to implement in my classroom on a consistent basis, all for the sake of just increasing student engagement. That wasn't a practice that I knew was a good fit and in alignment for me and my style. So that's why I prefer to choose those other 3 methods that I talked about within tonight's conversation. And if you missed it, the replay will be up. So just make sure that you join into my Manage Your Class Show live list, bit.ly/NYC show, so that you can catch the replay there. I have so much in store for you all for this summer. Like the teachers who are in the academy are going to get a lot because I keep thinking of new ways. Like the other day, I was like, oh, I'm going to create a full first week of school, like lesson plan for every teacher. Because, within the academy, it goes from grades K through 8. So I'm creating lesson plans for K through 2 teachers, 3 through 5 teachers, and then 6 through 8 teachers. Because the whole point here is that I want you to leave the academy over the short time that we are together, the 30 days, ready to go. Day 1 ready. Like no confusion, crystal clear, ready to effectively implement everything that I have taught you for sustainable classroom management throughout your school year. Let me see, what other questions did we have? I'm very interested. I teach 3rd grade and I started in January. Yes, Blair, would welcome you inside of the academy. We'll love to see your application come through so you can secure one of those 5 spots. Last name People says, I'm going to teach kindergarten for the first time next year, so I'm interested. Yes, we have quite a few kinder teachers who have already joined in the academy. Quite a few kinder teachers. Kinder and first. I'm not sure if you had some traumatic experiences from over this past year with your kinder and first graders, but I have a lot of kinder and first grade teachers. I have teachers from each of the grade bands, K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8 in the academy, but K1 is holding it down strong. Someone said, I just discovered Lumio. It's phenomenal. Have not heard of Lumio. Would love to learn more. Tell me more about Lumio. I do Kendall Higgins. Your name is very familiar. I've seen your name before, Kendall. Kendall said, I do one for math, a pickles time, pick one. Okay, so you do the pickles and the ketchup thing. I've heard of that before, pickles and ketchup. Again, it's very cute, very Instagram worthy, which does, just because it's cute and Instagram worthy doesn't necessarily mean it's not effective, but I've definitely seen those on several Instagram posts. Let's see. All right, so do we have any other questions? Because if we don't, I know that y'all are working very hard at this time to go ahead and put in your applications for the academy. So would love to see those come through so that you can have your name written on one of these sticky notes. But again, remember, at the end of the day, keep your student engagement practices simple. Do not overcomplicate it. Don't feel like you have to do what you see other teachers doing online. Just keep a nice, simple, streamlined approach to your student engagement practices. And make sure too that if you know that you need to work on improving your classroom management, set that as a priority for the upcoming school year. Again, I've shared that for me, my style and what I coach teachers on is taking a very simple approach and focusing on the foundation and being able to integrate equity, safe practices within the classroom, anti-racist practices. And if that is something that is right up your alley, you want to become a warm demander, then I highly advise you working with me over this summer. But if not, of course, I wish you the absolute best and much success within your classroom for this upcoming school year. Make sure, again, that you hop on the list for the Manage Your Class show for future. And I'm sending out some great emails on my email list, so make sure you're included there. And I will see y'all in the next live. Bye-bye.